Hey, this is Danny here from Podcast Stories. Thanks so much for listening, and I'd love for you to get the latest episodes when they're released. So make sure to follow on your favourite podcast app or hop on over to podcasterstories.com/listen. If you enjoy the show and want to support it, you can do that at podcasterstories.com/support to join other supporters just like you. Thanks so much for being part of the Podcaster Stories community. And now, here's this week's episode. Hi, and welcome to Podcaster Stories. Each show will have a conversation with podcasters across all mediums and share their story, what motivates them, why they started their show, how they grew their show, and more. We'll also talk about their personal lives and some of the things that have happened that have made them the person they are today. And now, here's your host, Danny Brown. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Podcaster Stories, where we meet the voices of the people behind the shows we listen to. This week, I've got two guests, Rockwell Felder and Zach Moreno from SquadCast FM. So guys, thanks for joining me. If maybe you want to introduce yourself and what you do, I guess.
Well, I appreciate you having us on, Danny. It's our pleasure to connect with you and add value to your audience. And a little bit about us. We're co-founders, like as you said, of SquadCast.fm. And what we do there is help professional podcasters create quality content remotely from anywhere in the world. And we've been at that about 3.5 years. And beyond that, Rock and I are longtime good friends.
Cool. And I know looking at the, I use SquadCast.fm myself. We're recording this episode on SquadCast FM, as all Podcaster Story episodes are recorded. And I know from your website, one of the main reasons that you guys started SquadCast FM is because of the limitations with remote recording. You've got a remote team. What were you finding were the biggest limitations that were really, impacting your team's effectiveness, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little surprising to us at first that it was just so difficult to create a podcast remotely, and just how all across the board, the different methods podcasters were using. There was, some very, to get the high quality audio that we were shooting for, it seemed like, it was a laborious effort, which is fine, but it just kind of took the fun and sizzle out of it. So then when we used easier solutions like a Skype or Zoom that was also common with podcasters, we felt like we had to sacrifice the audio quality, which really didn't sit well with us either. So kind of went back to the drawing board, because the original idea for this was that we wanted to start a podcast of our own with a remote team. So it did kind of take us back to the drawing board. And fortunately, Zach isn't a guy who stays down too long and came up with another idea. And then it was like, well, let's build this for the podcast industry. And so, we kind of came in as outsiders and really fans of podcasting and had experienced the magic as listeners, but then really needed to get inside the podcast producer publisher's head of, what challenges and problems are they experiencing? And, is this remote recording thing an opportunity? And, do people care about quality the way that we thought they did, or at least would, with the way that, podcasting was going?
Right. And you mentioned that you came into the industry as podcasters to create the platform for podcasters. So what was your background before coming in? What was your sort of other day job, if you like, before SquadCast?
Well, lots of things. And the podcast that we wanted to create was actually intended to be a kind of a creative side project, because I'm a software engineer and was working in the government on some environmental causes, and that was really great work, and I'm glad there are people doing it, but was writing too much code, to be frank, and wanted to go back to kind of a creative side project, as I went to art school before that, and used to paint every day, and I didn't necessarily want to go and do that again. I wanted to try something completely new, and was always a fan of podcasts from a listening perspective, and really became kind of aware and hip to this new genre within podcasting of audio dramas and fiction within podcasting. And we sought to create one of those new shows. So, new medium, new genre within that medium, and really wanted to kind of get out of our comfort zone and try something new. And we were pretty audacious in doing that, but also we thought we had a lot of the skills necessary to do that at a high level. My brother Vince, who's also on our team, is an audio engineer and sound designer, I'm a software engineer, and podcasts are kind of a medium of the web. And then my good friend and myself have both kind of been published authors. So we thought we had a lot of the prerequisites to do something like that, but we really found this bottleneck of quality, and that's really where we pivoted from the podcast to building something that kind of solved our own problem. It turns out a lot of other people had that same challenge as well.
Yeah, and for me, I was just Zach and I are longtime friends, so we've known each other since high school. But in college, we went our separate ways as far as like career interests went, and so he went the software development route, and then I went more the business accounting finance route. I was working at a accounting firm as a business auditor, which sounds probably boring to some, but for me, I actually thought it was really exciting and got exposed to a lot of different businesses and executives and founders and stuff. And so that's what started to, help me realize how interested I was in, taking a jump into something more creative and more independent and entrepreneurial, as good as that job was to me. And I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for that job, much like I think Zach feels the same way about his previous job. But, something was just kind of burning inside us independently that we wanted to do something more, again, creative and independent. It kind of it was this intersection of like Zach and I had already experienced working remotely and had success with that. And I think independently saw that as being a future thing that would be more common. And then this riding this curve of growth in podcasting at the same time. That's kind of what the bet was, is that the two of those would intersect and folks would want to create high quality content. And we wanted to be that platform to do that remotely.
And I know you'd mentioned, I've previously used like Zoom and Zencaster and stuff like that. And one of the reasons I came to, SquadCast FM is the features that you have, like the green room that we're using at the moment, for example, the separate audio tracks that not a lot of the remote ones have. When you were coming into the industry to create SquadCast FM, what were some of the biggest challenges that you found as you built the platform up?
Well, audio can be very exacting. So I think that was kind of one of the first design constraints that we sought to strive for producing quality audio. So if you're cool with recording kind of whatever quality audio, then it's not very exacting. But once you get into kind of the CD standard quality or kind of the edge of human hearing capabilities, that's when things get, a balancing act between what kind of modern computers and software and stuff like that can do versus, where our ears can hear. And, you can record quality audio, even if you solve those problems, and we did. If you record the best quality audio ever, and that file never actually makes it to the person who needs it to produce their show, then it doesn't really matter. So reliability is kind of that second factor that really, I think the combo of those two things together really is where SquadCast shines, is the high reliability with our kind of progressive upload technology that we've developed that kind of auto saves to the cloud, with our backup strategy that is recorded separately of our primaries. So we always have that kind of safety net in there for high reliability. Support is another one of those factors. And then just setting people up for success in post-production with time-saving features like recording in separate files, recording those files locally so they're that really high quality. And then also this problem of time sync issues can arise, so-called audio drift. And I believe we're the first platform to have solved that. And we have some patents pending around how we upload that audio that I mentioned, and then also the drift normalization. So all of those things combined really make a smooth experience on the surface, really easy for people to show up and record really great sounding audio. But there's all these things under the hood that add up to produce the quality and reliability and setting you up for success in post-production. So all in service of our listeners, which is, what we encourage podcasters to kind of make their decisions through that lens. The success as a podcaster follows with your audience.
No, for sure. And I know one of the previous platforms I used was notorious for audio drift, and it wasn't something I was aware of until listeners would start either emailing or pinging me on Twitter or whatever and say, hey, did you hear this? I thought, oh, great. Because I was just uploading it, when I first got started. Now, you mentioned some of the things, like you say, the progressive uploads and the audio, the lack of audio drift, etc. What would you say are some of the other things that separate you from similar platforms?
You want to take this one, Rock?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is that we care a lot, and we just really aren't going to accept what's commonly used or what's thought as possible. We're not going to take that as we're not going to settle with that. And I think that's why SquadCast is what it is that we figured that there just had to be a better way that was specifically catered towards empowering creators. And so I think, everything that we work on really comes down to that. And the best way that we do that is because we have the opportunity and the benefit of serving people that talk for a living. So very early on, we just realized, holy crap, these people are telling us exactly what they want. And they're well spoken. They know how to say what's on their mind, which can be tough at first when it's critical, but if you got thick skin, it can actually be super beneficial because, we just listen to them and just do, a lot of the stuff that we originally set out to do is pretty much there in the original vision, but a lot of stuff has been, direct customer input and feedback, and just working with them every step of the way to make sure that we're not just creating something just for the sake of being able to build and call ourselves entrepreneurs and stuff like that. We want to be solving real problems for real people and, making them really happy. So I think that's really what it boils down to is audio drift is something that we ran into as well. And it was really disappointing and scary and surprising, but we didn't settle for that because we thought that's unacceptable. There has to be a better way. And then the upload process, we had similar stuff to what happened, what was going on with Zencastr as well, and just thought that's unacceptable. There's got to be a better way. So then we developed this patent pending technology called progressive upload to help just have a better upload process, because we realize that time is so precious and there's so much work that goes into just getting that person in the interview with you. So when it's time for SquadCast to go, it needs to work. And so that's why we really try to, we really care about that. So everything is really with that in mind. And also it's because we've been in your shoes now. We have a podcast of our own. And I think that's really helped us understand what it's like to be a podcaster. And, we've experienced so many benefits of podcasting, whether it's building an audience, which we, are starting to do, but also the relationships that you can build and through the connections of having the podcast, like what we're doing right now, Danny. It's a pretty incredible thing. So we just care about it. We really like it. It's a great. We feel like the lucky ones.
No, I you know what, as an end user, I can see that coming through. Like I say, when I moved over from my previous host, or remote recording host, I should say, you can just see the difference right away. And speaking of users, you must see countless amounts of podcasts being uploaded and different types of podcasters, etc. What would you say is possibly the biggest mistake, if you like, that remote podcasters make? Either when it comes to the interview process or the platform or even the recording. What are you seeing, and how is SquadCast aiming to sort of fix that, if you like?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunities around education, and that's always been something that is kind of near and dear to our mission, because we're all figuring out podcasting as we go. It's a relatively new medium, so there's not this defined equation that you follow the recipe and everything, comes out the same every time. So that's really, that could feel kind of paralyzing, but it also is empowering because it's like a fresh sheet of paper and we're all, getting to innovate at the same time. So that can lead to a lot of kind of, non-intuitive things, different behavior, things like that around, we just published, I'm very excited to say, we just published our first remote podcast stats report that has some very interesting data. And we did that in a webinar called The State of Remote Podcasting. So that's on our blog and on our site if you want to check that out at SquadCast FM. And really, there's some insights in there that answer your question. So one of them is the microphone choice. Like there's a lot of recommendations out there from influencers and OG podcasters, but it's all at the end of the day anecdotal advice. We sought to bring clear data driven decision making to the podcast community through the 2019 year. We had data, and we brought that out to the community to really help people inform their choice of microphone, to bring awareness to the times of days that podcasters are recording. I think a lot of people think that anecdotally, again, that it's nights and weekends, it's hobbyists, it's all that stuff. Not true from what we've seen in our data. People are podcasting during the workday, which I think speaks to the professionalism and the evolution of our medium and community. Another one is recording with headphones versus speakers. That's a big debate in our community, and we again were able to bring some clear kind of cut and dry data to that picture and conversation. And for anybody out there, please wear headphones anytime you record audio. I think that's one of the big takeaways and things that we see kind of people just showing up on SquadCast and jumping in head first, which is always good. We always tell people just start your podcast, right? But it's not intuitive why headphones would impact quality. It's intuitive why the microphone would impact quality, but headphones is just one of those things that's not intuitive. It's not a fashion statement or a coincidence that you see people in studios and things like that all wearing headphones. Like there's a reason for that, and I can go into that, but please wear headphones, and your guests as well.
I know when I first started podcasting, I would just use the microphone, and I've always done a remote recording. I'd always wonder why I was shouting versus my guest who was just coming across naturally. And then when I got the focus right and I got headphones, it was a whole new world with the direct monitoring. It was crazy different. So
yeah, that's a big one. And then also this like if you're using speakers, it can cause this feedback echo loop, and we can cancel that out on SquadCast. You don't need headphones to record with us. It can be canceled out, but that requires software to impact the quality of your audio, and we don't want to do that. We want to give you the sounds that came from your mouth. We want to give you that and nothing in between. So when we have to cancel out that feedback, it can really compress and drive the volume down and impact the quality of the audio. We don't want that. So a much simpler solution is just wearing headphones to cancel that echo.
And I know you'd mentioned earlier about the recommendations of microphone choice and how certain original podcasters and influencers were going, and whether they were getting paid to do so by the brand, etc. Who knows? But what I've been impressed with SquadCast, when I look at your board of advisors, for example, you've got some crazy experienced people there, like Pat Flynn, for instance. So how did something like that come about? Did they approach you? Do you approach them somewhere in the middle, or?
Yeah, that's kind of we were very blessed to kind of, we didn't know what advisors were or what this advisory board was when we first started this startup game. But, we're students of the game and love to learn new things. So, when we were researching how to start a business and specifically a software company, one of the things that came up was leaning on the advice of other folks that were either had deep industry knowledge or network connections, or, obviously the ability to, build a business. And, for one reason or another, they all just kind of happened. It wasn't, the most intentional thing, which, has its downsides, but it's also because a lot of this stuff we were just doing for the first time. So, we went to Podcast Movement in 2016 as like the first unveiling, if you will, of SquadCast to the podcast community. And it was obviously very early days for us, and an incredibly anxious time for us because we had no idea how we were going to be received, and we're still operating under a lot of assumptions. So we're really like, how is this community going to receive us? And like within the first 5 minutes, it was like, oh my gosh, like it felt like it was at home, and these people were really awesome. And at this event in LA is when we met our first advisor, Harry Duran. And he's kind of been the one that helped us with those other relationships, and was really helping us set the tone of why those relationships are so important, because we spent the next year with him really, developing our positioning and our message, and really understanding who we're servicing and why, and how to do that. And so a lot of what you see in SquadCast today is is thanks to Harry Duran. But shortly after that, we started getting connected with other folks in the industry, like Ispree Devora from We Are LA Tech, Jordan Harbinger and Pat Flynn, who we were always fans of. And so the opportunity to work with someone like that, it was like, man, no brainer. And then just to have them just open doors for us or see things in ways that, just it feels like we're skipping steps, I guess, is really what that helps us out with. Like we would have figured out, I think, most of this stuff, but we've bumbled and stumbled our way on enough things. So it's nice to be ahead of a few things when people can tell you like, hey, this is what you should try, or you should think about it like this, or hey, I worked with this other company and this is what they did, so don't do that, or do that. So it's been incredible, man, because we look up to these people and they've been indirect mentors of ours in a lot of ways, but to actually like work with them directly and they're like still that same person, it's kind of trippy. But we're super grateful for it. And honestly, like what we keep hearing from them is that they're doing this for us, and they do have like an equity stake in the company, but it's not like a significant amount or a controlling amount. They don't make decisions. So a lot of this is coming from a generous place, I really think. And that's because other people have helped them along the way. And so I think one of the things that Zach and I are starting to see and getting really excited about is like our opportunity to start helping folks in a little way. And as we continue to grow and get more experience and build our network to do that even more is really exciting to me.
Yeah. And so is that where the About Two Mics podcast came from? The idea where it's introducing people to the wider community, like people you admire, for instance?
Yeah, it's something that we felt tremendously grateful. Like we were really, as Rock said, we had some imposter syndrome in early days, and a lot of this was not validated, and there was a lot of risk and all these things that startup founders talk about. But as we started to really understand that, yes, there is a huge opportunity here. Nobody's kind of happy with the state of the art, and we can bring something fresh and new. And we got that to finally work, thanks to our advisors in the community. And I mentioned Progressive Upload before. That was not our idea. That was Harry Duran's idea. So thank you, Harry, for all of your contributions, and the community as well. So that is where we found ourselves when we started the Between Two Mics podcast. Was, hey, we're in this incredibly fortunate position to have contributed something new to podcasting, and as we built out connections and kind of awareness as to the podcast landscape and community, we saw that there were all these other great people out there who were also pushing podcasting forward in one way or another, and kind of stretching the boundaries of the medium and the community. And as an example, Rock mentioned Espree, our advisor. She was at Simplecast, contributing to their product roadmap. And Simplecast is a very innovative podcast hosting company with analytics, and really kind of on the forefront of what's possible in that part of the industry. And there's a lot of other people. So it's really about sharing those stories, making people aware. Like podcasting, like I said before, is kind of a fresh sheet of paper. Like there is kind of some things, like we know we need a podcast host, we know we need to record somehow, and these things. But like in between that, there's a lot of space for innovation. So we wanted to explore and celebrate those people that are helping innovate in the podcasting space.
Now, as obviously podcasters yourself, and the people behind SquadCast and the platform, what that offers podcasters, if you could give one single piece of advice to new podcasters or people thinking about getting into the medium, what would that be?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of excitement and drive around creating podcasts. On the surface, from the listener perspective, it seems very easy to get started, and it can be. But I think people get kind of bogged down in the technology sometimes. And with the experience with SquadCast, we've always sought to, of course, it's a technology tool and platform, but we've always strived to put as much of it below the surface as possible. So that way it's really straightforward to just click record, walk away with awesome sounding audio files that are going to make it easy for you to edit and publish that podcast. So there doesn't really need to be all this fancy technology. There are problems though, and I think of technology as tools. So you don't go and like look for tools to solve problems you haven't found yet, right? Like I think that's kind of people kind of put those in the reverse order sometimes, where it's like, well, I need A, B, C, but if you haven't encountered like the problem that A solves, then you don't really need A, right? So it's kind of like it's as complex as you want to make it. And I think people see professional podcasters with all this gear and all these boxes on their desk and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, that's what I need to be like. Not true at all. You can sound great from anywhere in the world, and you don't need a lot of technology to do that. And I think that that's something that kind of gets in people's way. And then once you are started, keep going. Don't be discouraged by not sounding great on your first couple interviews, like awkward pauses or not knowing how to do something in post-production and editing out like your dog snoring in the background or something along those lines. Like just look forward and look for opportunities to continue improving. And just take ownership of it. Like, look, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's fine because I'm going to get better, and stick with me through this journey. And then you'll have this archive over time. Any podcaster who's been at it for more than a year or two, they all say like, oh, please don't listen to my first like 20 episodes or 100 episodes or whatever it is. But I like that stuff. And there's even this debate in the community about like deleting those episodes from your feed at some point. And I think that's like trying, I like transparency, anybody who knows me. So I think, just take ownership and just say, yeah, I'm way better now than I was then. And here's the proof.
Yeah, no, I know, listen back to my own podcast, like the echo that's on there, the noise in the background, it's like, oh my grief, what was I thinking? But it's to your point, it shows growth and it shows someone willing to learn and, as you say, take ownership. And I think people appreciate that more as opposed to someone that comes in with all the bells and whistles from day one, that's super slick recordings and everything. So just to like switch it around a bit, what is something about you both that people that people that know you might be surprised to learn if they don't already know it?
That is a good question. You want us to like me answer about Zach and him about me, or me answer about myself?
That could be fun, actually. It's like a Mr. and Mrs. panel here. That could be fun. I like that.
I did not mean to set it up like that, but you're right.
Well, I'll start and say something about Rock. Does that sound good?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Rock has these incredible skills that he mentioned with finance and business and accounting and these like very kind of cut and dry skills, like you can do something or you can't. But I have noticed that he often overlooks of himself his abilities to do things at a high level outside of those in creative ways. Like those seem like very non-creative fields, but as we've learned, business is probably one of the most creative things that a person can do, and Rock excels in that environment. So that's convinced me that it's not all hard skills. There are a lot of soft skills in there as well, and that comes to life every day in creative ways with our business.
That's funny you said that, man, because that's what I was going to kind of use is like the soft skills. It can be very easy as someone in your position who's got so much work to do. Your job's almost always ending as our lead on the vision of our product, the development of our product. But then on top of that, you have the job as CEO, as the leader of the company, and you set the tone at the top and the vision and stuff like that. So for me, it's been interesting to see someone who's doing both and likes to do both. And it's pretty awesome because it's like, well, who better to communicate the vision of a tech company than someone who loves technology as much as Zach and believes in technology as much as Zach. And he takes it very seriously, like almost to a fault. So maybe that's the thing that people don't know about it is he's very sensitive about technology. So be gentle when discussing technology about him.
Well, I'm a diehard geek, so I would never, ever, look to step on anybody's toes when it comes to tech at all. Okay, guys. Well, this has been like a pleasure. I really enjoyed our chat, and I could sit here for hours just talking away. But I am wary of people that don't listen to podcasts like Joe Rogan for 3 hours or whatever. So I like to keep my limits. For people that want to learn about SquadCast, the platform, or listen to your podcast or anything like that, where's the best place for them to connect with you guys?
Yeah, our podcast is available everywhere, and that's the Between Two Mics, number 2. And we talk to people who are pushing podcasting forward in one way or another. And we're always looking for, the innovators in the industry and talking to them about their stories. And like I said, there's no shortage of those. It's pretty amazing days in podcasting, and we're looking to celebrate and bring those stories to the community. And then at SquadCast, we are very open and part of the community. So find us at meetups or conferences when we kind of get back to those, hopefully in the near future here. And you can find us in the meantime on our website, squadcast.fm, or on social media at SquadCastFM. And we're very grateful, as I said in the beginning, to connect with you, Danny. So thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Danny.
No, thank you. Okay, guys. Well, this has been another episode of Podcaster Stories. If you enjoyed this week's show, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode when it comes out. And you can find the show either at podcasterstories.com or on your favorite apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Until the next time, be well, and we'll speak soon. You've been listening to Podcaster Stories. If you enjoyed this week's show, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And feel free to leave a review on iTunes to help others find the show too. And we'll see you the next time on Podcaster Stories.